tried to log on and reserve the name Spider Cash, but someone already took it. Someone already reserved fucking Spider Cash. Like, that was quick, dude. Maybe it's him, actually. I think that's /friend Spider Cash, right? Ah, too funny. Too funny. Some slick dick quicker than me. Quick Draw McGraw, so they're fucking had the name reserved already and everything, dude. The news has been out for like 2 or 3 hours. Unless there's just some fucking Michael Bolton scenario. God, what a perfect name. Son of a bitch. I was fucking... I'd be stomping the dirt right now. Fucking Spider Cash is already taken. Son of a bitch. That should be on like your mental Rolodex of things to do. Anytime you come across anything like you know what I mean? Like, what's your thought process? Well, first, if it sounds funny, is it a character I can use on World of Warcraft? Like, if it's not, then, or if it is, then try to reserve the name. Because I came up with Uma Thurman the other day, and I told my friend about it, and he's like, he logged out of the instance like right then and there and reserved it. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I'd never seen Uma Thurman before. I thought that was pretty good. And then Joe Rogan, obviously, but that was already taken. A few others that are funny, but fucking Spider Cash. I figured there'd be more Batman names than that, but I guess Spider-Man's cool too, I guess, right? Spider-Man, he's pretty cool. The news calling him a porn addict. He's got 1 subscriber. If there's any documented case of somebody not being addicted to porn, I think that would be it, right? And the joke I've told before, I'm so addicted to porn when the power goes out, I jerk off to a solar calculator, dude. So I don't want to hear about it. Speaking of which, the power did go out the other day, didn't it? Now that I think about it. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I'm jerking off to a solar powered calculator. No, it was a good. What was it? Did that guy just kill that guy? Did you just kill my teammate? It looks like it. These people are picking fights with people. Kind of fucking with the vibe here, guy. At least it looks like it. Anyway. Yeah, fucking Spider Cash, man. Whatever. It's too funny. In a good way. It's the first time we've seen a government email leaked and there's not a bunch of like kids tied up with shoestrings and satanic symbols drawn on the walls and shit. You're like, so proof positive that not everybody in the government's a scumbag. Good. Good for him. He needs a promotion probably, right? Good for Spider Cash, right? Seriously, like this government emails leaked. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like, here we go. Fucking Pizzagate conspiracists are already sharpening their fucking chopsticks about it. Try and farm a few. Well, my arena partner wants to do 2s, and I haven't logged on all week to do shit. And, you know what I mean? So those guys are getting the meanies. I have a farm spot. Well, shit. Trying to get my spellfire set. I'm not such a scrub in raids. guy's a real go-getter though, man. Like he's got the strategy guide, and like he's talented at playing rogue. He's just it's new, and you got to think the farm of people playing World of Warcraft now are people that have essentially played the game since retail, you know. So there's like not probably 4 out of 5 people recommend fucking Colgate toothpaste or whatever. No, like 4 out of 5 people that play this expansion are people that played it at retail or at least one of the re-releases. So like they've been playing this shit forever and ever and ever. So they're really good. You know, you're like your 1500 rated team now is equivalent to like an 1800 rated team initially. Right. And I've said before, man, it's like if you judge everybody based on like their internet search history and stuff, you wouldn't even be able to have neighbors. You'd be like everybody would be on their own island. You know what I mean? If you really cared about that kind of shit. Like nothing weird at all from what I can see, right? Like good God. Proof positive then, right? If there ever were an email to get hacked, now I think it is a psyop, right? This is a psyop to prove that not everybody in the government's a scumbag. Thanks, Iran. Never thought I'd say that, right? Oh, fucking great. Here we go again. Right. To go get a whole fucking gallon of Pepto-Bismol and everything just to be able to stomach the news. Fucking Spider Cash. God damn it, that name's so perfect. Why haven't I thought of it? My sleep schedule's unfortunately kind of flip-flopped on me because I took 2 naps earlier today. Yeah. I don't want to hoard these guys' spot, but I also don't want that guy to die, so. This is a good spot, though, but there's only 3 people here. Oh. That's one of the things, though, is like, something I'll say here, but I won't ever, well, not likely to say. It's like, when you search your friends in the Epstein files, right, and they all seem to be, like, acting like normal people, right, it's kind of a good thing. Versus, like, the others, right, you're like, just because they were named in the Epstein files, just because you can control F somebody's name out of a terabyte of emails that have been exchanged over the last 20 years doesn't make them anything, right? But when you do find somebody's name and you do know the person, you're kind of like, well, they seem to be like just doing legitimate business, right? Well, no crime there. Fuck. What do you do about it? But what you don't want is a scenario where it becomes a witch hunt or a red scare where just because you control F your name, you know what I mean? In a stack of documents does not make you a criminal. Which is the sentiment. If you've ever talked to the tards on Twitter about like any of this kind of stuff, like if I were to even raise that point to somebody, like one of the Pizzagate, right? The people that like everything's Pizzagate no matter what, right? If you were to ever even just say like, well, you do know that just because you'd be like Charles Manson or Jeffrey Dahmer all of a sudden, right? They'd have nothing like, I'm like, whoa, I'm just trying to draw the logic window over the subject here, not like, well, let's drag this fucking argument out of the realm of reason and bring it to somewhere retarded where you can make wild accusations about anybody on planet Earth and there not be any repercussion for it. You're like, okay, well, whatever. But I've attempted on a few occasions to at least inject a bit of sanity and logic and reason into a conversation, and every time it's met with like, oh, you're one of the fucking, and just a list of names that I don't want to repeat, basically, right? Only because, not that I have a responsibility or like a civic duty or anything, but like, you have to be the voice of reason in a room full of people that behave like children sometimes, and that's why it's often met with so much resistance. Like, simply pointing out that their argument makes no sense. Like, regardless of the subject matter, I would be saying this, right? So don't get your panties in a twist just because it's this or that. It's like, it has nothing to do with this or that. It has the fact that you have a baseless argument, and what you are doing when you accuse people of these things and it's not true, right? Or you have no evidence, is you're kind of diminishing all the people that actually have done this kind of thing. You know, you're normalizing something that's not normal in the name of being right in an opinion that's not true, right? So it's stupid. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of like the boy who cried wolf, right? It's like, well, there are cases of this that actually do go on, and what you're doing currently is diluting that argument with these fucking arguments that are baseless, basically, right? Similar to falsely accusing somebody of rape, you know what I mean? It is like, well, you're taking away from all the people that actually have suffered from that kind of thing, you know? I mean, it is a double-edged sword, I guess, right? If you want to call it that. So I'm convinced it's a psyop, right? I don't call everything a psyop, but when I do, right, what's the most interesting man in the world? I don't declare everything a psyop, but when I do, it certainly looks like the fucking most squeaky clean frat boy, uh, Boy Scout person on the planet having their emails leaked. Like, you know what I mean? After all this fucking debacle of the Epstein files, right? And if that's not what it is, hey, you know, maybe a PR firm could orchestrate that kind of thing at some point in the future. This was I don't want to have to layer off. Hey, look, all these people left. It looks like. I don't have improved blizzard anymore. Remember. Oh fuck, that's why they left. Son of a bitch. That explains a lot. I'm like, fuck. Like, why did they leave? I think my guild's that guild where, like, you see that story in the newspaper, like, man married for 30 years, wife finds his second family, right? Because everybody in my guild logs on just for raid time, and then they just like disappear, and that you don't see them all week. You know what I mean? You get a feeling there's a whole bunch of people somewhere. They're like, because they're pretty good. Some of them are pretty good, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had alts in like higher end raiding guilds and shit at some point in time, but you get the impression that like I'm like their second family, right? Like that their side piece on the other side of town that their wife finds out about after 30 years apparently. Now does every layer have a Kazakh? Yeah, I eventually got to come out of the closet to my 2v2 partner and tell him that I stream. So whenever when I stream, I can, that way I don't have to like jump off of streaming, because it's what I've done this last week. Anytime I played WoW, pretty much, is just arenas and stuff. I feel like it would be something that I would like prefer to have his permission, or like his blessing, saying like, oh well, yeah, he thinks we're just sitting here, just me and him, and streaming the shit online to other people. He might not be cool with it, so I might eventually tell him and ask him, hey, is it cool if I stream our 2v2s, right? He seems to be legit though. I don't think he's up to no good. And he's a real go-getter, man. He wants to, and he's talented and quick and shit too. You can tell like he'd be good if, I mean, he is good. We need to practice. I have my ice over ice lance macro, right? Super helpful. So if you get into where you're in like a tagging match where you're like, okay, who can tag the thing the quickest? I have this macro where all I have to do is put my mouse over. I said, how did I not have this for all these years, man? It's such a great thing to have. See, I don't have to target it. I was wondering how those guys were tagging that shit quicker than me. I'm like, they're not quicker than me. There's a trick to it. I figured out the trick. See, look, I don't even have to have it targeted. So if you know where they're going to spawn, you just put your mouse over where they spawn and smash your fucking ice lance key until it spawns. And you should be able to beat pretty much anybody to the punch as far as tagging mobs are concerned. There's always a trick to it, right? Like, there's no way they're that much quicker than me. It's been a tough week, you know. I'm praying and hoping for something, but like I've completely shut the news off, right? Like just for now, I'm like just don't give up, basically, right? That's about all I can say. But that being said, I can still tag that one. Yeah, I told my arena partner that I'm gonna try and spend the time. He wanted to do arenas now, and I was like, oh, it's kind of fucking, dude. I haven't talked to anybody in like a week or two, like period. Been screaming at some squirrels out in the front yard and stuff because the weather's getting nice. But other than that, hanging out with my imaginary friends and talking to myself is all I do, which has its benefits from time to time. Uh, so like, streaming is like super important to me. You know, like keeps me from losing my mind. Guy. Oh, are they trying to kill it? Invite. Are these on? These are horde. Fucking invite me. God damn it, dude. Seriously? Well, die and heal, heal. A fucking son of a bitch. Hunks. You guys are all up at 4 in the morning. Anyway, thanks for the invite. Probably sounds like some guy with tampons up his nose. Oh, this dude wants me to invite him to our raid, right? Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Think you're better than me? I don't think he drops anything worthwhile anyway, but I'm here to have you guys. Yeah, no, thanks. That's what I wanted you to do. Now I get to. Now this spot's for claim, I guess, right? Although there's 3 of us here, which is shitty. But I do have my strategy to tag things quicker. Another thing, and what's interesting though, is I did notice that I say competitor, which I just say that because they have a product in a similar space as ours. I noticed that their shit's kind of fallen off the map too. Like I said, the circus came to town, and the circus is, from what I'm familiar with, they're expensive to employ, and you can't do it for very long. So I think the circus came and went with that, and that's about it, right? I think it'd be a good thing to look at in maybe a year or so if they're still around. But so rarely do people stick around for a year, dude. They just don't do it. Like, they think that the token is the token price is the project, and it's not. It's like you have to really kind of future plan for that kind of thing, because my experience in the past and having worked with teams that have had projects that were successful then didn't make it through, you know, and it's not my proudest thing, but it wasn't anything to do with me, just market conditions at the time. I wasn't the project lead. The project team and the lead all had basically lost hope and courage. That's not to do with the current projects that I'm working on, but this was like 2018 or 19 where they got to beating themselves up over the token price because it's all these fucking people online talk about. I'm like, well, if you develop a thing and keep in mind that doesn't matter for the time being, like you basically, if you commit yourself, let's pretend that you've basically signed an imaginary contract in your head that requires you to apply yourself for at least 1 to 2 years, like a wage or a salary before you have the right to give up. You know what I mean? Say like you can't quit. You know what I mean? And even then, I'd say 2 years is pretty lax. I'd say 5 years would be the standard kind of protocol for that kind of thing. Especially if you pay yourself for 5 years in advance or whatever. But the thing was, at the time, all these ICOs had launched, and they got to drinking the Kool-Aid from the pre-people that were the pump fund crowd before there was pump fund, saying that that if the token price isn't a certain amount, then the project isn't doing well. It's like, that's not necessarily true. Like, we have some very interesting case studies for coins like Solana that prove that if you commit yourself regardless of what the token value is, you know what I mean? Especially if you get paid, like, I don't know what their team got paid, but I know they did a fundraising round or something at some point in time. I don't know how much of that was like put in their pockets to eat lunch and shit, but I'm sure they cut themselves out of salary if they made a company or whatever, however that works, right? That being said, it's like you don't do an ICO or pump fund or launch anything and pay yourself to not work. It doesn't work that way, you know what I mean? Like, it does, but those things fail. If you don't do it that way, they succeed. Because what's even harder to find than something new is people that'll do the shit regardless, right? What I hate to see though is that there are so many influencers that like mailmen, right? Like rain, sleet, or snow. They do their podcast regardless. If you're familiar with some of the people in the crypto space, that like day in, day out, no matter what, and those people make far less than like your average paid per tweet crypto bro. Yeah, I say piece of shit, you know what I mean? But whatever. And without the monetary incentive, those people still work harder and work regardless, you know, and are often fucking starving to death people, you know. Never skip a beat. And then you have people that think that their opinions matter so much that they're entitled to $20,000 every time they say something. I can tell you for a fact that what their words worth is not worth $20,000. I promise you. I promise you that. But that being said, projects in the past, things we've learned, having gone through that, had I had the ability to just make people like, nope, you're doing it, fucking ball and chain, right? Like, if I had the ability to do it at the time, I would have done it to them. You know what I mean? I said, no, you fundraised, and you made a roadmap. You know what I mean? Like, no, you're doing this shit. Period. You said you were going to. You got paid to do it. I didn't say you were fired, so you have to do it. And if not, you've probably broken some kind of law. You know what I mean? But it never came to that. I never had that authority. But you would think in the future, common sense kind of maybe possible legislation for that kind of thing is you can't just fundraise and make a roadmap and then bail as soon as the token price goes down. Like, you've made some sort of legally, verbally binding, you know, public commitment to a group of people that you raised funds from. Yeah, no, you're doing this shit, you know, basically, is what it should amount to. And if not, I want to see you, like, washing dishes or volunteering at a homeless shelter for the remainder of the time, right? Like, basically a slave for however many years, right? That's how it should work. There's too much money going around for it to work any other way. That was the downfall of like the ICO era, was all these people fundraising without having to actually commit themselves to any realistic, like, well, you know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we didn't really promise anything. Or like, okay, well, let's just assume that that's bullshit. And you took the time to make this roadmap. Like, can we call that some sort of commitment? You know what I mean? Not that you have to have everything set in stone, but if you make a 5-year roadmap, I would expect you to, you know, like, doesn't have to be said, you know what I mean, really. Can't necessarily, like I said, for every attempt to be self-governing and responsible before the government has to step in is super helpful. It's super helpful. Because, like, look, for every mismeasured or whatever, or mismeasure or whatever, misjudgment as far as how things should be, the government comes down twice as hard. So just make it easy on yourself and make a few common sense like decisions as to what you think that looks like, you know, what good practice looks like. Take a page out of the book of tradition and say like, well, how does traditional business do it, right? Without copying exactly, you know, how do you adapt traditional business models to crypto, right? And use that as a blueprint, you know. And usually you would think anybody that would see that sort of effort would say, well, yeah, that's basically best practices, common sense shit that we can all probably agree on. And it keeps the regulators from knocking at your door as frequently, right? That's coming from someone who's had them actually come to his house and knock on his door in the past. So that's about all there is to it, right? I would hope to see that sort of initiative from those from people that are in those positions, man. Because like I said, if you don't do it yourself, they will fucking do it for you. And like, you're talking to a person that tried their ass off to do it for themselves, and they still came knocking at my door. So that's just what they do. That is what they do. But whenever they do, you want to be able to say, here is my fucking, look, you can go through, this is where I tried, right? And in the past, that has helped me fucking tremendously, let's just say, right? Like a track record, like, okay, here's where I made this decision, here's where I tried this, here's where I just, okay, well, then fucking we have to leave you alone then, you know, is essentially what was said. Now, that's not like a future promise that they'll do that forever, but at the time, though, they were glad to see, it seemed like, that I had taken like a whole bunch of measures to try and do the best that I fucking could. Just, you know, I'm sure they dealt with people that were less than scrupulous about the same thing elsewhere rather. But I'm not trying to like pretend to be something I'm not. But I'm just sort of letting you know that, you know, that sort of thing does happen. You know, at some point in time, I can't imagine like what cryptocurrency didn't have some sort of thing lodged against it by the SEC or the government at some point in time, right? Pretty sure all of them have, without being an expert on the shit. But one of the takeaway lessons from that experience was having dealt with numerous lawyers that were securities lawyers and all that stuff. Were like, well, there's not a whole lot of there's guidance, which is, I guess, things that might not be law but are a good idea, they say, and then there's like a whole bunch of things that, you know, just help yourself navigate the course, right? Best practices, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, you know, try your best to do what's right. Keep track records of your successes and your things that are failures too, and just keep a track record of your good deeds regardless, and try to do as little if to zero possible bad deeds as humanly possible, right? And keep a fucking log of all the shit, so that way if they ever come knocking, you can say, here's my mountain of evidence that I fucking tried, right? And that's worked well for me in the past. I would suggest that for anybody. Yep, for sure. For sure, for sure. So I don't want to give anybody the false impression. Like I've mentioned before, I have worked with regulators. Like, I don't claim to be a regulator. I don't claim to be some government guy. My record, dude, I'm the last person the government's hiring to do shit ever. But when I say I've worked with regulators, I think it's a point to be made that yes, at some point in time I had to, you know, they weren't like prodding me for all this like precious knowledge or whatever, but they might at some point in the future for all I fucking know. But to say like I'm familiar, I've worked with them, like they've requested things from me and I've complied, you know, it's about the nature of the relationship. And I think all in all, that's a net plus in today's day and age, because there's a lot of guys just getting their bearings kind of in this field, right? Cryptocurrency and stuff, that use language that I would say could use some polishing, to say the least. Conduct themselves in ways that I say could use some polishing, and I'm not here to play coach for everybody, but I do have this one thing that's like really near and dear to my heart that I need to make sure gets to the goalpost if possible. And when it does, and I believe it will, you know, I want the people involved to be as much like samurai swords as humanly possible, right? And I haven't, that opportunity for me hasn't arisen yet. I think in the future, something like that, I think, you know, I'll be here to do it if it's required. Because it was one of the tasks, and this is not like I'll toot my own horn or anything, but when the ICO thing started, and that's where I cut my teeth when I first started working with John. One of the things, first things he had me do was like a community organizer, you know. But before the time of community organizer, he wanted me to set up like the security for the chat room and this and the other thing. At this point in time, dude, Telegram was like a new invention. ICOs were new. You know, there were just people everywhere pretty much trying to feel their way through a dark room. And what we established there was some of the first like rules of engagement for this kind of thing, like what the do's and don'ts, how to conduct yourself, kind of, you know, how to spot scammers, how to ban them and keep them out of the chat and all that stuff, and how to keep your account from getting hacked and everything else. So, and when the guy that invented cybersecurity requests you to do that, you're like, what he told me was, yeah, it would be awfully embarrassing if the guy that created cybersecurity gets his account hacked in the midst of all this. And I'm like, equally embarrassing if I fuck it up, right? So I better get it right. You think it's embarrassing for you? You don't give a shit, dude. Like, right? You think it's embarrassing for you? You don't care. I fucking shit. I'm dead serious about this shit. But that entire time, and he was a high value target too for hackers, just because he's like one of those, let's take down a giants, you know, like the hacker mentality. Some of them have that mentality. You've seen it today with Cash Patel, right? So like high value targets, people like him, those hackers, they take pride when they can compromise a target like that. And can't say it had much to do with me, but the only thing that he had as far as security wise that occurred in our entire, you know, call it working relationship or whatever, was a SIM swap, which is fucking a hell on earth nightmare, you know. But so like yeah. But he was able to recover his accounts pretty quickly and all that. But as far as like the Telegram stuff, it's like you're always gonna have people trying to impersonate people. You're always gonna have to do this or that. But if you could imagine like not having any experience at all whatsoever, because you think like this is like an obstacle course at the time, right? And like, oh well, you don't know what the obstacle course looks like. And you think back at like watching yourself run through the obstacle course, you're like, I guess I did all right, you know, I tried. There are some things I would have done different this time, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not on me for everybody else to do what they're supposed to do. It's like I learned a lot regardless. Uh, you can't say I did anything wrong, you know what I mean? I've only tried my ass off every goddamn day. So that's why I hope it works out, because what I know and that what other people might not understand is in crypto, even harder than finding something that you can market and make a product out of is to find a team of people that will work honestly, and to find it all in one place with a group of people that have proven themselves time and time again to have good intentions and to be honest and forthright. And um, and skilled, you know, and experienced, and being able to create something that's totally new and different, you would say like, yeah, it's like the perfect match for anybody. It's hard to find people that even have just one of these characteristics, right? Much less all 5 or 6 of them. So I hope it works out, man, because it's like what people that might be potentially interested in partnerships or whatever in the future, they might not even understand like the degree of how difficult that is to find, especially in crypto. This isn't like a place where people normally have their degrees, you know, and their LinkedIn pages and stuff. I mean, a lot of people do, um, but some of the most talented people don't have credentials. And you think back through history, you're like, well, all the people that dropped out of college that were the most successful businessmen on planet Earth and all that stuff, you're like, well, yeah, I mean, you're kind of pigeonholing yourself saying you need a degree to do any of this shit. You know what I mean? You're probably um, alienating the most talented individuals if you do that. So I would suggest not to do that. Because it's not always about like who knows the most, it's who can learn the most. And if you can find someone that knows how to learn, then fuck all the shit that the other people know, right? That's why I'm not necessarily stressing myself out too much to try and learn a whole bunch of new skills, because when I do learn it, I want to make sure I learn it the right way, so that way, like, you get to this point in time where you're like, well, I didn't learn the structuring portion. Yeah, I know how to get it all up and running, but I don't know how to structure the shit so anybody else knows how to repair it or keep it up and running or upgrade it, so on and so forth, right? So what I don't want to do is to learn how to do it the wrong way and have to unlearn everything and then relearn it later. I've proven to myself that I understand the concepts and the theories and stuff and how it works, you know, and I'm educating myself more all the time, but I really do need to understand how to structure, so that way if like I make this super awesome thing and I want you to participate in the process and you're looking at it like it's fucking schizophrenic, you know, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's because I didn't know how to structure the thing correctly. Like, yeah, that's just as much of an important skill required to do it successfully as anything else. And I lack the knowledge and the hardware currently to learn how to structure things properly and to make a like a repository or whatever people call it, where other people can apply to your work and all that. So I don't want to learn how to do it the wrong way. I know I can take the time to learn it, but I've been kind of busy this week, unfortunately. Um, last couple of weeks, so I've proven that I understand the concept, and I can still spend time doing this shit. You know, just when I get there is all. Sit up straight. You know what I mean? It's like public speaking. So on the list of things that I can work on, public speaking is one of them. And like my first step, like I say though, like why it is that I'm not the fucking best developer coder on earth or whatever is because the things I just mentioned, I only have so much shit at my disposal to do it. You know, like it's not an excuse to not do anything, which is why I've done something. But the thing is, like, how much can you actually learn before actually just throwing yourself in the arena? It's like, well, I know at some point in time, public speaking might be something that's required of me. You know what I mean? So the first step towards being able to be successful at that is to show my face, do this fucking uh, lame ass podcast as much as possible, and get used to speaking to people, whether it be face to face or through a computer screen or whatever. And get better at enunciating and speaking and putting my thoughts together. And you know what I mean? I don't have to fucking host a fucking roast or anything just yet. But Thing is, when I get there, I'll be able to do it. You know, that's the thing. Do enough now, right? So when you finally get there, you do know how to do it. Or at least people can see you've made an honest effort to try, you know, just I get so frustrated with these people that have been silent. Like, I never see them tweet, I never see them do anything, and all they do is bitch and complain about things not being exactly the way they want. I'm like, nobody works for you, and if they did, you know what I mean? Like, come on now. Don't be greedy, don't be an asshole. None of this shit's owed to you. No one promised it to you. So when I see people like indignant children, someone says something like, well, we're working on this, and someone goes, well, I wish you guys would work on the price getting up, or whatever. You're like, yeah, that's kind of like a disheartening kind of, that's like an indignant, like, well, no one made you that promise, but what was promised in some way, shape, or form was a roadmap and progression and development and stuff, you know, like, nowhere in the roadmap does it say we want it to be worth this much by this point in time, because that's a fool's errand, you know what I mean? And even then, roadmaps are flexible. I would say if you can judge just based on like an honest effort, I would say, yeah, I would say with Leah specifically, in my own assessment, if I were outside of it, I would say met any expectation I could possibly have. Not every line item goal was accomplished just yet, but anytime any one of those line item goals wasn't accomplished, there's a reason for it, and those things are a very dynamic situation, right? Like, at some point in time, choosing to develop an app, albeit a kind of a bare bones proof of concept app versus like a full-fledged, you know, thing you download in the App Store, but there was a good reason for it, and of the people that were there in the community at the time, that was the direction that the members of the community that have been vocal had chosen to take with it, right? Whereas like, oh, well, you weren't there, you know, you didn't say anything, and you don't like where it ended up. It's like, well, then where were you? You know what I mean? So it's like a closed mouth never gets fed, or whatever. It's like you lose your right to complain if you don't say anything, basically, is what it amounts to. God damn it, Jerry. That's the gist of it, right? You lose your right to complain if you don't say anything. Like, oh, you're there the day it all falls apart to bitch and complain, but where have you been for the last year? Too busy. Okay. Most important man on the planet. Less crowded, layered. Yeah, I'm like, I know I'm preaching to the choir about a lot of this shit, and like, and I don't claim to be perfect or anything, but even the best advice that I have to people that might not have it, you know what I mean? Like, I've made it through some shit before, so. And for every person that says, like, well, all those are liabilities, and I say, well, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about then, right? Yeah, you do have no clue what you're talking about. Everything that I've ever been through, I've learned from and made myself a better person. So I guess where you see a liability, I see like a net plus, right? A force multiplier. Is like, well, why? Because the things that happen to me could happen to anybody, and I've already went through them. So if they ever happen again, you know, At least I know what the fuck I'm doing. You know, sort of, right? Sort of, right? I don't know if but you get what I'm saying. At least I have some experience here. This is a very big, dark, and scary room sometimes. So at least I have some experience. I have some of the map. What's the thing? In video games, when they say the fog, right? I have some of the map defogged here, so better than nothing. It's all experience. What sucks is that it's all shit that can't go on a job resume, I guess, and which makes things difficult. That's all. Yep. And in all honesty, I don't anticipate any difficulties with all that stuff because I think, like, the troll mentality would be like, well, that's not a good thing. You know what I mean? You never want those people knocking at your door. I'm like, they're practically Mormons, dude. They go to everybody's door. If you're in cryptocurrency, the SEC are the fucking regulatory Mormons. You'd think there was something wrong if they hadn't knocked at your door. You know what I mean? They're practically the fucking Mormons. Like, trust me, if you're in crypto, they have your name and a file and like every time you've ever farted on the internet, pretty much. You know, and just take that to be true. You know what I mean? My experience so far. So for people that are new or whatever, or don't have a cryptocurrency or whatever, like, and look, I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just saying, right? These things might be looked at as detrimental or a liability to the wrong people, though. Like, and to the right people, I shouldn't have to fucking make my argument. Is the thing. So basically, I'm arguing with a bunch of imaginary internet trolls in my head right now, you know, because they've given me shit in the past, but you know what I mean. It's like, oh, well, so wait, like, there are these people, right? So say, like, you want to get to a destination, and you don't want to be lost on the road for 1,000 hours, and you have someone that can give you directions on how to get, like, 25% the way there. Well, that's helpful, you know, in all honesty. I mean, the guy that thought the blue on the map was land. Yep. Old baby Buster. If you knew this fucking thing, why that's funny is in my family, my parents, my brother, right? Like, we always watched Arrested Development. You know, we were nothing like the family on Arrested Development, other than the fact that we were very dysfunctional, it's not, but very functional, dysfunctional, loving group of people, right? Just like the show. But the joke was, even my parents always said I was the Buster of the family, because my older brother, like, he left the nest real early, like, had his shit together, and like knew how to break dance and bartend and all this shit. And I'm sitting here naked eating Doritos in my 30s, you know, playing World of Warcraft or whatever. And the joke was I was always like the Buster character, like the coddled, like infantile, feeble-minded idiot, you know. That, but it is funny how it all worked out, isn't it? So my mom always joked to me that like I was the baby Buster of the family. Right. Now I think about it, though, my brother's more of a Job. He's more of a Job. There's a lot you can learn from watching that show, though. It's a blueprint for sure. Or a script. A blueprint or a script. 'Cause there was a lot of things that were funny there. Like, there was that season with Terry Crews where he ran for mayor or whatever, right? And like, what are we gonna do? Build a wall or whatever. And like, 2 or 3 years later, Trump runs for president, and you're like, wait a second, I just saw this with the black. There was a black guy playing Trump like 2 or 3 years ago on this TV show, and now it's the news, right? Cool. Plenty of room here for everybody. This show's so funny though. God damn it, is that show funny? Smile every time I think about it. I was wearing my fucking Bluth Banana t-shirt until I fucking spilled something spilled something on it like 2 or 3 hours ago. I have blue handprints all over my living room. When people come, they're like, is something wrong with this guy? I'm like, no, it was the other guy. The other guy. There was something wrong with the other guy. I'm a cartographer. Anyway, I'm living it right now. I really am. And even though I like lack a lot of essential knowledge, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't necessarily go volunteering myself for any of these things if I can help it. But the fact of the matter is that I know more than nothing. You know what I mean? And that's more than others can say. Not any specific people, just in general. It's not a thing a lot of people have encountered. So and I think that the fool's argument is that it's a liability. Yeah, that's the thing. I'd love to start streaming on X again, but I don't necessarily want to dilute my feed with like me just playing World of Warcraft. I want to kind of keep this just on TikTok and YouTube for documentation purposes, and then if and when they ever get Leah up and running again, have that be where I can stream content for AI. You know what I mean? And then that way I'm not like until I make a second account at some point in time. I have to make it probably a second account if it does get up and running, so I can keep the things, you know, like the Ghostbusters, never cross the streams. The vendor doesn't want that item. Like grandma's ashes? Yeah, no, he doesn't want that. Really?
You're very handy, I can tell. I bet you like to read a lot, too.
Print is dead.
Oh, that's very fascinating to me. I read a lot myself. Some people think I'm too intellectual, but I think it's a fabulous way to spend your spare time. I also play racquetball. Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. It's like a dad's movie, you know, like. So I have 20 primal fires. I need to keep at least 15 of them. And I have 500 gold left, dude. I had 1,000 gold the other day. And I guess fucking I got rust stormed by Blizzard again, despite the fact that I didn't purchase any of it. Unless I spent it on. What did I buy with it? All I bought was 2 spell penetration gems for my PvP. Oh, and a leg enchant was 270 gold. Shit. Anyway. But, that being said, what we can do. Teleport to if. I need to level my tailoring 9 more levels, and then I need to keep 16 primal fires on reserve for my spellfire robes, and then I need 4 more spell cloth. So in all honesty, if I level this 9 more times, I can actually build these now. I really need these fucking 3-piece set bonus, dude. These things are fucking awesome. They're best in slot until Sunwell Plateau. And even then, they're like, it's fucking hard to break with the set bonus. Hard to part with the set bonus. Bracers. I think we established those bracers are better. There's a little bit of damage, gain a whole bunch of crit. Grandma's ashes. Healing, I sell that for a couple of gold. Whatever came from that guy that got his podcast was picked up for like a new season or whatever. Remember, it was like all the news like 4 or 5 months ago. Did that ever happen? I mean, like, I saw that the transaction went through, but did he ever make any more podcasts? You know what I'm saying? Or did that fall apart? Like, is somebody pissed about all that? Or did that, like, it just hasn't come to fruition yet?
What can I get for you today?
What time is it? It's,
Keep your feet on the ground.
yeah, I don't know. Can either take the time to try and level my tailoring 10 more levels, which is probably gonna fucking bankrupt me. But 9 more levels, that gets me to 375. What do I need to make? There's a guide online, but like, look at all this shit. I forgot all this shit doesn't give me any skill points. So, we have to go to the how to level tailoring, spelled it wrong, tailoring from 365 to 375. Imbued netherweave rope or vest, which stay orange. Costly route. Where do I get the... God, that is going to be expensive. Where do I get the pattern? $360. All right. Where are you? Where you at, McDougal? Iron Forge. There he is. There's my friend. Oh, look, it's my friend. Hey, friend. Portal to Darnassus.
That's still recharging.
Crazy. I don't know what to make of all that. That's the thing, like, God, dude. I don't know how it all works out, man. I just know it does eventually, right? There's so many things like, oh, I wish it were that way, and then there's, I have that opinion because I don't know all the facts. You know what I mean? But what I really do not want to see, you know, in an all honest kind of assessment, is that the people that have been here since day one, who have tried their ass off and have done everything they can do to make everything work, albeit sometimes not as publicly as you would like, I guess, or whatever, all the shit behind the scenes, you're like, I'd hate to see anybody get stiffed, that's all. So I hope there's a future where that doesn't happen. The most, without leaving a bad taste in anybody's mouth, right? I'm hoping that's the resolution eventually. In all honesty, right? I'm super fair about the shit, right? I'm always super fair. Sometimes probably more fair than I should be, you know. So, that being said, I just hope that people can appreciate that after how many months now, like 15, 16 months now, right? That it's no small feat to say, like, these people in crypto, where it's hard to find anybody worth the shit, basically, to begin with, much less people to stick through all of this. And you know, it's just, you would hope to see that that's appreciated by people that know how difficult that is to find and to do, right? Whereas, like, well, it starts off as a crypto thing and ends up as something else. You're like, yeah, but crypto is what made this happen. And the last decade, other than a very few and far between success stories, has there been any sort of like real grassroots project that has kind of got legs on its own and really provided anything worth a damn? And I'd hate to see that just trashed because somebody else sees it as whatever, you know. Leaving all the names and all the subject matter out, you know, just objectively. You'd hope to see that, like, crypto is the thing that made it happen. And as much as I don't necessarily agree with Pump Fund hardly ever, Pump Fund is the platform that did provide the service that you know, that you wish people would utilize to the degree that I've seen utilized here, you know, versus what I've seen with a lot of other things. You would hope that if used correctly, it's really helpful, you know. It's the people, you know, they're not very, the community isn't, as a whole, is not a very honest or good, like, well-intentioned community, and that's shitty. And at the end of the day, you cannot necessarily blame the people at Pump Fund for that. You know, really, you can't. So, that being said, it has managed to give the right people that well-intentioned, an essential and helpful platform to develop on, right?
Your gold is welcome
So,
here. Glory to the Sindora. Time is of the essence.
I hate for it to all be in vain, right?
I have one of a kind.
And like I say, as much as crypto needs more success stories like that, I think Pump Fund also needs more success stories like that.
The reckoning is at hand. Has a price.
Because the shit that's worth a damn is so few and far between.
Death to all who oppose us.
Like I said, right, as much as Bitcoin was like a perfect example of like a grassroots thing, and everybody's saying, well, like, the potential we see here is technology, not dollars, right? And if you keep that as your motivation, despite everybody going like, well, that's a lame ad, you know, no one ever gets fed, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. It's like I've said hundreds and thousands of times, is that every Bitcoin mined for a certain period of time was mined at a net loss, you know, for years and years and years. So like every one of these you had, you were actually down like $6 or $7 or more, you know. And people did it for the right reasons at the right time, and now they have nothing to worry about. If you just find the technology that is new and innovative, right, and support it for those reasons, and go, well, if anybody else sees it for that is the way you do, then you have nothing to worry about. If you want that to be your only motivation, but you know how people are. Okay, so we've got tunics and robes, and they are the exact same thing. Cloth. Why do they have two of these different things? .33 and 11 MP5. Oh, one's more damage, okay. I need a lot of imbued netherweave. But when I say that, as much as people wish it didn't have to happen, it's like if you don't have like immediate institutional adoption and acceptance of something, then it's a fucking rocky road, and like you have to be prepared to basically take the chart and like put it on ignore for a couple of years at a time, you know, if that's what you're here for. Because you can look at the most successful examples, and the fact that, I mean, like I was stepped away from crypto at the time, but Solana's like one of the perfect examples of something that, looking back at like the news articles and shit at the time, like, oh, it got delisted, everybody sold it all, it went from like a whole bunch to a whole nothing, you know, and like the people that were vindicated in the end were the people that said, well, what we're here to do regardless is to develop on this platform because what it does is special. And if you want to make this part of your equation, it's like, what does it do? It solves a problem. And what do people do? Well, they pay money for problems to get solved. You know, it's like, so do the math, right? It's like you don't have to say it. No one else has to say it. It is a good way to attract the wrong people, though. And don't get me wrong, I understand there's economics behind all of this shit, but what I'm getting at is that there are other layer ones that are not met with that amount of success because the people involved were institutionally driven, which is like, well, where's this math equation where every dollar I put in, I get more, you know? It's like, well, sometimes, right, all the algorithms in the world don't provide you with anything when it comes to that, you know, because they just don't. It just doesn't work that way. It's like, well, there's a whole bunch of things about Solana that you cannot pay to get. You cannot pay to have those things, right? Whether it be skills, motivation, character, all things outside of the scope of dollar value and technology even, right? But at some point in time, and I always use this example, at some point in time, Bitcoin was computer nerds like the really expensive shortwave radio hobby. You know what I mean? It's like, well, where's the dollar? Where's the financial incentive to operate a ham radio tower or whatever? Well, there's like virtually none. It's expensive. It requires a bunch of electricity. You have to like learn a textbook or two on how to do all this shit, right? But people still do it, even though there's no financial incentive whatsoever. You know, like the Amateur Ham Radio Club of America and all that shit or whatever. There's virtually no incentive to do it, but people like in droves do it. Well, why? Well, because it's fucking cool. That's why, right? And at the time, like early days of Bitcoin, I saw Bitcoin as the equivalent of that. Whereas like, take the financial incentive out of it. It's like you see what the thing's trying to do, and I explained to people like, if you could imagine a scenario in which every dollar that you had had every time it had been transacted in the past, like written on the thing. You could see from the beginning of this dollar being printed until present day, every time that, and every person, and every time that dollar had exchanged from one person to another, you're like, that's just one of the many super cool things about it, right? You don't think that that's fun, even if it didn't make $1. You know what I mean? That's fun to me regardless. And it just so happened to end up being popular, so. You know, it's like one of those things you keep on the back burner of your mind where you're like, well, it would be cool if one of these days, you know, but like for that to be your only motivation is, you know, it's never going to work that way, you know, and if it does, it's not going to be met with as much success that way as something that is actually unique or cool or whatever. Come on now. I hope it all works out. Because I say it's always like the Beastie Boys, right? It's like you could never go say like, well, what we really want is like this new rap group, you know, like okay, well, call Central Casting and go find us the Beastie Boys. You wouldn't be able to do it. The reason why the Beastie Boys worked is because they were the Beastie Boys. You can't pay somebody to be the Beastie Boys. It just doesn't work that way, you know. No matter how much you want to, no matter how much you try. And I feel that the group of people at Leah have that similar kind of like, you just can't find people, you know what I mean, that do the shit like that, really.
You got my attention.
Yeah, it's like somebody else might have a similar idea. They might be able to hire people to do the same thing or whatever, but you get what I'm saying.
Watch, get her back.
You kind of want the person that actually did it to be the one to do it, not someone like, oh, we'll just dress them up like the Beastie Boys and we'll call them Menudo and we'll have them march out there and make something similar and all this other stuff. You're like, yeah, that's not in the spirit of the thing, right? And a lot of people's sentiment has changed since AI has helped so much in developing that they say having like a viral and kind of like cool origin story is just as important as anything else, you know, like, and I agree. That's why like the Facebook movie and stuff was so successful is because it was an interesting story, you know. And if I had to guess, the stock price of Meta or Facebook had gone up since that movie was released in theaters. You know what I mean? Not to say it's the only reason, but I'm sure it didn't hurt any. Okay, so we need to make 9 of these robes, dude. Which means we need a whole bunch of this spiderweb silk. No pun intended. Everybody gets one. Need 18 netherweb spider silks. It's gonna be about 60 gold or something. All right, now. Bolt of imbued netherweave. And 24. Okay, so I have all this. I just need more arcane dust, and I have plenty of that in the bank, so we should be good if we can. We need. Oh, the mana. Oh, the fucking mana loom.
Talk to me.
33 of these. And I need. I need a lot, well, not a lot more, but a few more. Well, let's see, 18. Got all the spire silk. I need a lot more netherweave cloth. Really, no one's selling stacks of 20 of them. God damn it, dude. The guy's like buying the shit right as I'm trying to. Come on now. I think either way, that's still less than 1 gold per bolt. So 220. Why the fuck is the price all weird now? 280. Wait a second. What? Sort by unit price. I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, I'd never known that. All these years of World of Warcraft. Just a few more levels.
I can't carry
Oh no, Jerry. $50 of those should be 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42? Terrible, 44, right? No, that's 36, 42, right? And 48. Derp. Hear how good I am at maths? But I need 6 times 54. Almost there. And I should be able to get my Spellfire robes crafted. Which means that all I need to get then is another piece of tier 4. And then I have like all my gear pretty much. If I want to spend the time to get like Spell Strike or something, I can, but tier 4 is pretty good. I think I remember having it at level 70 the first time. Spell Strike shit's expensive. It's like 1,000 gold or more each. So let's get some more arcane dust.
You got my attention. Watch your back.
Should be 50. Almost there. Costs about 200 gold so far, 180. 4 more. Which 4 bolts is 18, so I need to buy about 4 more stacks of bolts, or really nether weave cloth. Why is this? Sort by the lowest unit price. Is that right there? I guess so. Well, oh shit! I already had all. Forgot I had all this shit in the mail still. Fuck.
Inventory is full. I can't carry anymore.
Why not, Jerry? If we get to 54, then we can start making our robes. Alright, now we purchased more nether weave than we needed, but maybe it'll go up.
Here there.
Maybe it'll go up in price or something. Gotta go to the mana loom.
Up with it.
And it stays orange until 375, so it should be all I need to have my tailoring maxed. Then I can build my robes. And I forget it's like +5 to stats. That's the robe enchant. And I need to get 2 gems. Probably go spell hit, and yeah, I'll need to do probably 2 8 spell hit gems because the robes only have crit. Get the mana loom. That'll help tremendously because it's gonna give me like 60 or 70 spell damage for my intellect, and plus the robes are like way better. Might have to swap out a piece of gear for a piece of hit gear, but takes forever. Play the Jeopardy song, but I have to put it on repeat. It's pretty cool. I guess we're back in just a minute. Oh my god, dude. Old spider cash. That is too funny. They said it was gonna stay orange until 375. Shit. Might have to make an extra one or two of them. I hope not. Oh, that one didn't give me a point. Shit. Thank God I bought all that extra cloth then. I'm a doctor too. Come on now. Come on. Fucking all besides 1 point. I think it's designed to where like it won't ever give you like 100% chance or whatever. So, here we go. I should have enough for the rest of this shit though. Oh, I have enough. I just don't have enough. I don't have enough spider silk. So let's hope. Let's go get the spider silk real quick. Is there an auctioneer in Shatterath? I looked up something online that said there was, and I've yet to find it. Oh Lord. Two more nether web spider silk. I don't need to buy that much of it, but whatever, I need it for the other thing too. That was 30 gold. Fuck. arena partner wrote me some message earlier. He tried to do. I couldn't tell. Like, I'm like, bro, are you breaking up with me? Like, he's like, sorry, man, just you're really cool and all, but no. But he was talking about somebody else. So I was like, oh man, this is the first time anybody's ever broken up with me over a video game before. I was kind of scared for a second. It turns out he's talking about some other mage, right? And he was like, I tried to do twos with this guy. I'm like, wait, did he send this message to the wrong person? You know what I mean? No, he was like, oh, no. I was like, no, bro, like, we're totally cool, fucking secret handshake hug, and let me lick your ear. I'm like, all right. Whatever, dude. Like, I've never had anyone break up with me over a video game before. Right? He ended up saying, like, no, I tried to do 2v2 with this other mage, and he's like, he said the other mage was shitty. But when he looked up strategies and what to do as a rogue, he's like, we got to like whatever, like we were doing all right. And he's like, this other guy didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He's like, but if you can watch this PvP video and it shows you how to do 2v2 mage rogue, because I've never really played it before, at least not like more than 5 or 10 games or whatever. And like he's like, if you can get the strategy down and all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, I know how to get the strategy down for sure. We'll do really well. So I gotta look up I gotta watch the how-to video later. So another weave. Come on now. Just one more guy. Ugh. I didn't want to see it. Fuck. I knew it was gonna do that. Son of a bitch, dude. I knew it was gonna do that. I'd end up making 11 robes for 9 skill points, which I guess is about right, but the guide online said it stays orange until 365 or 375. Gotta be at the mana loom. Glad I bought extra spider silk because I'd have to go back to Ironforge, buy 2 more spider silk. I think blacksmithing is like way more expensive to level, but I have to get my arcane dust up now. I've yet to level my enchanting. I've got 25 agility plus enchanter rings. It's like extra 24 damage. Enchanting's kind of a podunk, like all you get from it is like a few extra damage. Or engineering being good though. I think they kind of nerfed engineering for PvP at some point. Come on now. I got it. Yes. Victory. Now all the internet monsters shall bow down before me. All right. Now we're in business, dude. That episode of Aqua Teen cracks me up every time. Like, Meatwad's like the whipping post for the TV show, and like one episode he gets magical powers and instantly turns into like a little Satanist. It's super funny. Give someone like Meatwad just a little bit of power and see what he does with it. It's too funny. The episode of Rick and Morty when Rick's like he finally, I forget what problem he solved. He goes, "Fuck you, your god's a lie. Your universe powers my brake lights." Right. Yep. Whatever he says exactly, right?
Shorelaran, Anaria Shola. The reckoning is at hand.
Soul cloth for spellfire robes, man. I can actually make the things too. Ooh. I need to get 4 more spellcloth. And I should have the gold to do it. I'm not waiting like 8 more days for it. Coolio, man. Coolio. I think it's like probably 200 gold, and I'll be pretty fucking flat broke, but gets all that taken care of. You just wish they ever made it to where like all the craftable gear, like leveling up your skills and all that, like there's no way for that to be shit you would actually use ever. It's always garbage. You never run around, you never see anybody using like imbued netherweave robes or anything. Spellcloth. All right now. Should be it. And then after I get 2 gems, that should be like every last gold that I have. Here's the thing though, is like you get this gear and basically the increase to my stats is like having a flask pop all the time, right? So yeah, you might not have a flask for the raid this week, but spellfire robes. Make sure we have it selected. I know it is, but spellfire robes. It is like a clear cut, the biggest upgrade I can possibly get. Failed, right. There they are. You don't replace these until you get the craftable robes that drop in not Tempest Keep, what's the other place? Sunfire Plateau or whatever. Sunwell Plateau, rather, right? If I remember correctly. So I lose. I lose about 15 hit though. That's shitty. All I have is spell hit and everything. God damn it. I wish I had like something with just a little bit more hit. Finally. Now this is what my character used to look like way back in the day. For a long time too. My hit is 143. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So I need it to be 13%. Basically. But if I put 2 8-hit gems in my robes, think those are cheap. Let's see. Yikes, man, this thing's getting cheaper and cheaper. The fucking... No, Jerry. These are called Great Dawn Stones. They're 41 gold each, Jerry. That's all your gold, Jerry. You've spent it all, Jerry. I don't have any more money left for turkey legs, Jerry.
What can I do for you?
That's almost hit cap, though. If I get... That's got that goddamn Thunderhawk. God damn it. Now if I put hit gems in my belt and then hit gems in my everything else, it'll get up there, but... So what's great about that is the 3-piece set bonus is spell damage by up to 7% of your intellect. So we have 930 fire damage now, which is good. That's par. And with intellect, our intellect gives us 3 more spell damage. I thought it would be more than that, but overall though, that's a good one. Yeah, so like, if you think like tooling up a team to do something in crypto, you would assume go the path of least resistance, but also don't compromise, if that makes sense. Because there's shit like, plus you can't pay people to get along, you know, the shit never works. One of the lessons learned playing World of Warcraft, right, when I was younger, and this was such an intimidating experience at the time, like our guild was like number 2 on the server for Alliance, right, and there was this real big swinging dick PvP guild and another big swinging dick PvE guild, right, and we're second on this, well, 3rd or 4th on the server, second on Alliance, right, and the best PvP guild on our server merged with the best PvE guild on our server, and they made this like super guild, and like you'd slash who them, and like every person you're like, oh fuck, no way, oh fuck, it was like an all-star cast, right? And then personalities clashed like 6 weeks later, and they fucking fell apart, and we were the best. So, lessons learned playing World of Warcraft, I guess, right? You can't pay people to get along. Personalities clashing is not a good thing. You cannot pay people to fucking tuck their egos, you know what I mean? You can't even pay them to tuck their dicks these days, much less their egos, but it was like perfect. It was like watching these, like every one of them too, like all-star, like every person in their guild roster was like rank 14, rank 14, rank 14, which is like required the most amount of effort put forth, you know, maybe not the most amount of skill, but they were really skilled PvPers. And everybody in their raiding guild, you know, were either like neck and neck, or like we'd kill a boss and they'd kill two bosses, and we'd kill two bosses, and then we'd kill another one. They'd like racing them basically, right? But when they merged these two guilds together, they cleared like all this content in like a week or two, and then they fell apart because a bunch of swinging dicks, you know, pissing contest every week, you know, and they all just said, well, fuck this, isn't, I don't need these people, I'm gonna start my own guild, right? You're not invited. I'm gonna call it what my old guild's name was. You're like, right, you should have just stayed where you were. I'm gonna leave this guild, I'm gonna start a new guild, and if I told you their names, dude, it would be funny, because it would make, the joke would make more sense. They're like, I'll start like, I'm gonna quit and start my old guild then, right? You're like, the fuck? Full circle, I guess, right? You should have just stayed where you were. You guys would have done better. But they were like super, and I see this type of thing in crypto all the time. These people obsessed with like, well, axe this guy, fucking, like, sometimes, not to say like a personality hire, but sometimes you need the guy that, the person, I guess you call it the personality hire. Like, sometimes you need character, sometimes you need that fucking, what's the episode of the Brady Bunch with the retarded redheaded kid that gets, that like, they fucking beat him up all the time? Danny Bonaducci, and then they win a contest because of him. You're like, sometimes you gotta, you know, take the retarded redheaded kid with you. You know, it builds character, makes you have to try harder, you know. If you got a person that's making your shit more difficult, then you try harder. You know, and then if that person ever joins another guild, you're like, well, shit, dude, it's actually better with less people, right? We can do, we've trained ourselves. We've like training in the fucking gravity chamber on Dragon Ball Z. Like, we've carried this dead weight around with us for so long that when you finally get rid of it, you're like, fucking, you go Super Saiyan, bro. That's all. And a lot of those guilds and a lot of people, they don't understand that. Like, you know, you cannot just axe everybody that isn't the best ever. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need the shitties. I don't say that in a mean way, just henceforth referred to as shitties, basically. The guy that gets it but isn't as skilled as you, but, you know, like, so what? You need like a Fight Club algorithm to determine, like, at what point in time is this guy worth getting rid of? Or like, at some point in time, you know, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes their personality carries a long way, you know. It's like you realize when that person's gone that like, yeah, they made the raid hard because they kept wiping it and everything else, but they, you know, made everybody laugh and all that. So they were a net positive overall. And I've seen in the past where projects that never come to fruition, like, without giving you specific examples, but at some point in time, like, every project had like, oh, well, this, the guy, he was a lead developer at Coinbase, or Vitalik advised on this project, and like, you never seen, for example, I'm not giving a specific reference if that even happened, but you're like, at some point in time, the shtick was the advisory, you know, and like, basically you're asking someone to come on your project or whatever, come aboard for the sake of putting their name on it. You're like, and I've never really seen projects where people like, they did really well in crypto, they like made the super awesome thing, and then they just decided to advise another project, and that project was ever as successful. Because it's kind of like, well, you know what that is, like, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they're not necessarily paying you to fucking hold a wrench or anything. They're just asking you to be there, you know. And I can't say I'm against that entirely, because it's like, you've done your hard work here, you know, you're expanding your resume, you know. I can't tell you that you can't do more than one thing at a time. I just, it's not necessarily like I wouldn't expect somebody to be expected to basically make two like super awesome one-hit songs, right? Like if you think about it that way, especially when it's like, well, yeah, these aren't just like songs. This shit takes years and years and years to make just one thing, right? So like, I'd say just try to stick to one thing if possible, right, as much as possible. But yeah, I don't really know what point I was trying to make, but yeah, just the personality thing, right? I've seen that time and time again. And but what I mean is that like you do see projects that try to draft like, oh, we're gonna get the best guy here and the best guy there. Like, is it really that they're the best for that position, or that they're the most well known for their previous position? And every time, without fail, no, they're just most well known for their previous position. You're asking them to come aboard and just be there because like an aura or whatever, or like a presence, you know, like their actual ability to provide something substantial to the project is usually immeasurable or finite or non-existent, right? Whereas asking somebody that is proven themselves through what they've been able to create to do the exact same thing or to improve upon the thing they created is a little different, versus like, hey, we thought you did a really good job creating this thing. Do you want to advise our project, which is basically where they put your name on the page, basically. Like, I wouldn't expect, and I can't say there's anything wrong with it if you're being honest, but I wouldn't expect to think like the metric you use to grade projects as, well, who are the names associated with it and what are their previous successes? Like, that's important, but I would be more impressed by a new guy doing something totally different than an old guy doing something new. You know what I mean? And I think with Leah, I see that perfect blend of new guys doing something totally different, right? Which I think is more impressive, if not more difficult, because at some point in time, that's what those other guys were doing, you know.
How are you?
Just I wouldn't say a project's success is predicated on any one individual and their previous successes. Although a good track record helps, it just depends on how much are you actually applying yourself versus how much are you just being there, you know. I mean, a vote of confidence is great, but I also think that at a point in time that might give people false hope. Because I mean, I've dealt with people that do this. That's all, you know. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. Jerry. Cool, cool. It's all use your best judgment shit, right? And hopefully after this, what do you call it, culling? Hopefully it gets better soon, but I think it's necessary for crypto to go through all this shit so that way people can learn that at any point in time, whether you think you're the best meme trader on the planet or not, which I have a really tough time assuming that's anything really. Like I said the other day, meme coin developer is an oxymoron. Um, but if you savvy yourself as the best meme coin trader of all time, I would say like even you should know by now that at any point in time they can turn the printing presses off and then we all aren't shit pretty much. Um, so having sound fundamentals is the most important part of that. And basically the shit that I've said tonight is the things that I've learned through trial and error and like having to actually go through it enough to know that like if I ever get caught up in the whole like he said, she said, Cole's personalities, previous successes, them just being here, not being able to provide anything substantial other than their name and a vote of confidence, or like those are all nice things to have, but those don't make a project ever, you know. Those generate hype but provide nothing. So as much as I can preach fundamentals is about it, right? Because at any point in time, like we've seen, we've had the printing presses essentially just turned off on everybody, and you're getting to see what crypto is really about, right? So. So. All right, let's farm some. And some primal fires and try to get our gold back up. And here's the thing, like, I don't know shit about meme coins. I would just assume it's one of those things that I prefer not to educate myself on, because fundamentally I just feast or famine, man. Would you prefer to avoid the famine part at all? Like, you can do it, I promise you. It just requires more work. But when you get yourself set in place and all that shit, and like, we'll see. I'm telling you, we'll see by the end of it. If I'm right here, you have a fucking year worth of me talking to myself, doing nothing but saying these things, right? So, at some point in time, I wish I had created a pump fund account and bought all my tokens off a pump fund account, so everybody could see at some point in time, like, here's what I said, right? It's worth this much or whatever, if that's what it means to you. But at some point in time, you know, I'd love to have done that, but I didn't, because I said to myself at one point in time, like, I will very likely, for my own reasons, never purchase a token through Pump Fund, because I don't agree with a lot of what they do. You know, not to say the developer team or whatever, but the community and shit. You know, I probably get chastised and trolled by fucking nameless, faceless individuals till the end of time for saying it at some point, but I've stayed in that road and on that road for that reason specifically, you know, whereas I could have purchased all my tokens through Pump Fund and create an account and make that my shtick or whatever, but I'd prefer not to, basically, you know. Because I think it's a pretty shitty place. I think all in all, the community is not a very good community. And so what? There are some really good people there, don't get me wrong. But we'll see. We'll see at the end of this who is right. And I might be. I'm not saying I'm going to be, but we'll see. We'll definitely get to see. And I own my successes and failures equally, so won't be any of this, well, I'll just change my name and go somewhere else and this, that, or the other thing. It's like, no, I can give you my address. You know what I mean? You can come visit me if you have a problem. I'm about that transparent about things, even though people advise me against it, but I don't live like that. I don't live a closed book kind of veiled life at all. I've been forced to do that in the past, and I don't appreciate it. So any opportunity I get to live my life out in the open, I enjoy it much more. Golly, dude, all these fucking people. Don't you any fucking, seriously, if I was fucking Kim Jong-un, I'd be putting a fucking bedtime on these people. Like, you you guys have a bedtime. You are not allowed to be playing WoW right now. One thing I think I could support though, like, and this is a fucking, you know what I mean. But if there ever were a video game that was as popular as World of Warcraft and they had an in-game currency, I would support the meme coin ecosystem with that sort of currency, like a gamified, game-based currency that you could exchange for meme coins on something like Pump Fun. But when you get into the realm of like it's worth this many dollars, you're like, why? And everybody goes, well, let's best not to ask questions, you know, like it just kind of is, and here's our like, you know what I mean? Like that's not fair, you know what I mean? It's not honest. It's not fair. I mean, not everybody does that, but if you get to the point where it's gamified collectibles, I understand that. If they can figure out a way to where like I had an exchange in game here, World of Warcraft, and I could use my gold to buy meme coins, yeah, I'd fucking do that all day. That'd be fun. But it isn't that, you know what I mean? But if a new game ever does come along that has that sort of ability, that'd be awesome. You know, I could see that being successful for a whole bunch of reasons. But the idea that like that you're selling this whatever is like a financial product or an asset, I go as a whole, absolutely not. On an individual basis, you have to use your best judgment. You know what I mean? And I would never tell you it's those things. I'm just saying in my own mind, assessing these things based on what I see, like. You know what I'm saying? Like my perceived value goes beyond just what the token might be worth. It's like man hours, dedication, the team, how dedicated are they, honest, forthright, how hard do they work, how knowledgeable are they? You know, there's a whole bunch of shit that goes into it. So they do say that AVAX has come forward a lot in a lot of ways with implementing cryptocurrency into video games, which I think is a great idea. You would think it'd have been one of the first things they did, but it's been a pretty tough thing to conquer somehow. But if Blizzard were to launch their own universal cryptocurrency for all their games, you know, that might be tough because keeping that all balanced and the currency generation, all that shit, or if they were to or like a Steam launch their own cryptocurrency, you know, or whatever virtual currency. You know, there's something there. I just don't know what exactly. I'm sure those are all things that have been explored by their people at some point in time. They probably came to the same conclusion that anybody would have. It's just not there yet. But they'll know when the time's right, for sure. Come on now. This is shitty. Derp. Wrong button, Jerry. crossing of them. I get my two-piece tier 4. When I cast, they won't interrupt me. Like every time I get hit, it knocks it back and takes longer to cast, which is shitty. What time is it? Gotta call it evening soon. Took a nap earlier. Took 2 naps actually. I just didn't sleep much the night before, and just slept when I could get it today, basically. Come on now. Well, we got some things taken care of. Got my coveted 3-piece set bonus, and I should have enough gold to get a flask for raid on Sunday. God, there's all these fucking people here. How are the price of these going down if there's all these people here farming them? Really? Two-piece set bonus would be awesome right now. I could farm without my ice barrier up, because you're going to take about as much damage as you do damage, so... don't have improved Blizzard. Sucks. I didn't use it that much for any of this stuff, but got to the point where you have good enough gear that it doesn't matter as far as utility and shit and instances are concerned. Cool. Getting all that spellfire stuff. What else did I aggro here?
It's not ready yet.
Alrighty, well I'm probably gonna log off then because it's been crowded and late, so I'll try and log on here tomorrow or like